Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East Update. It's a whole new year. You're going to take a look at this. You're going to see there's sort of a new vibe, a new feel to our Middle East Update. It's the week of January 7th, and a reminder, make sure you grab the PDF PowerPoint that accompanies this YouTube. It's probably just a link off of the YouTube page, or you can always go to our website at holygroundexplorations.com. So we always begin with what we call our news bites, just little bits and pieces of what's taken place. Again, we're looking at the Middle East. We're looking at Israel and the countries that surround Israel. So we'll start with Omicron. Experiments published in recent days all point to the conclusion that Omicron is milder than the Delta and any other earlier versions of the virus. The reason we share this is because last week we talked about the great unraveling, and that's what's happening. And Naftali Bennett's government is paper thin, and when you're backed into a corner, you realize you've got to create fear in order to preserve your power. And so this caged animal that's in a corner is going to be lashing out statistics and numbers and how many new variants are on the horizon, etc., etc. The bottom line is what I just said. The experiments are showing that Omicron is milder than the Delta variant. And in fact, we're going to find in a later article here, Israel, as of tonight, is reopening. No more red countries whatsoever. More to come on that. An Israel bus driver was injured in Jerusalem on Monday night when an Arab terrorist threw a firebomb at the bus, and it was near Mount Scopus. Now, again, news bite, but we're going to talk about the rise of violence, of terrorism, of anti-Semitism in this day. In fact, it's the reason why I decided to wear this IDF sweatshirt, because last week in New York City, simply because somebody was wearing this sweatshirt, or one like it, not this one, they were attacked on the streets and beaten up. Once again, we cannot stick our head in the sand and assume, oh no, that's just chatter that's out there. There is a dramatic rise of anti-Semitism and terrorism in our day. And then finally, Joe Biden's presidency seems to be in a free fall. Whether it's from Corona or from Kabul, there is a foreboding sense that the U.S. is on retreat and being brought down from the inside. No foe senses this more than Iran. Once again, these are the thoughts that are coming out of Israel. This is not a Republican view or a Democratic view or whatever. It's a Middle East update. Our major articles this week, like I said, the rise of anti-Semitism. A recent Israeli survey has found that almost 80% of Israelis are concerned about anti-Semitism globally, with almost 73% believing that anti-Semitism once again is widespread. More than half believe that the problem of anti-Semitism has only grown stronger during the past 5 years. And again, I always include photos in this, and this one, it really sets the stage. It's the swastika with a no symbol through it or whatever, and it simply says, I can't believe I'm still protesting against the Nazis. It is happening once again in our day. A couple weeks ago, we gave in one of our articles, we talked about the decline among evangelicals in their support of Israel. And the alarming news was it was the 30 and unders that no longer have the same devotion, commitment to Israel in our day as my particular generation has. And this is alarming to Israel. Where do they stand in the eyes of the boomers? No, well, we know where they stand with the boomers, but in the generations beneath this generation. Well, let's go on. Omicron, like I said, it's the great unraveling. Likud is just, they're again, the Likud party, that's Benjamin Netanyahu's party. It's got the largest amount of seats, but they could not secure a majority for a Knesset to maintain the Netanyahu government. If you know anything about the Israeli government, you realize that there's no one party. There's horse trading that needs to be done, and there was a mosaic, I guess you would say, a compilation of smaller parties that created enough in order to have a majority. That's why Naftali Bennett is the prime minister at this time. His particular party, very minuscule amount of seats that were voted into the Knesset, but Likud is ratcheting up the attack. They attacked Bennett in a statement following a recent press conference. Again, listen, Bennett has lost control of the pandemic. He's not managing the coronavirus. The coronavirus is managing him. Herd infection is not a strategy, but it's an expression of helplessness that passes all of the responsibility onto the citizens. We have reached this gloomy state because of Bennett's confused and leaderless government that hasn't made any decision to stop the pandemic in time. Now, that article came out a couple days ago. As I've mentioned, I call it the Great Unraveling. Just in COVID-19, Israel cancels red countries. It reopens its skies starting on Friday. Israelis can travel anywhere without special permission. On Sunday, Israel will reopen to vaccinated foreigners. In the midst of all the chatter and all the noise, you're going to be hearing about this escalation of the variants of Omicron. And yet, in the midst of all of this fear tactic, the reality is Israel's reopening. Like I said, it is definitely, the Israeli word, the Hebrew word is balagan. It's just crazy maker that's going on right now. And it's all political and who's going to maintain control. Well, let's shift now to Iran. Last week, with tensions rising to new heights over what seems to be a nuclear deal, Iran has now raised the ante even more, claiming that it's launched a ballistic satellite or a satellite into space. If this is true, it gives Iran the ability to rain nuclear weapons down anywhere in the world. Of course, Iran claims that the satellite is only for research, but experts have said that the easiest way for Iran to strike anywhere it wants to is to use this sort of rocket technologies. Rumors are spreading once again that Israel may have to attack Iran on its own in order to prevent the Iranians from getting the upper hands. We've been talking about this. 2022 is going to be a year that something is going to happen. And now let's talk about what just came in today, just past my one of the news feeds that came on. I stopped before recording this, as I probably need to add this. This is again in light of world opinion, anti-Semitism, growing terrorism. Turkey. the Hamas headquarters in Istanbul has directed hundreds of terrorist attacks against Israelis. They've raised millions of dollars, and this is a report that just came out. The organization that gave this report notes that Turkey collaborates with this terrorist organization. We know that. We know that there are Hamas operatives and leaders that are in Turkey. Many have been given Turkish citizenship, and many of them so happen to be the prisoners that were released in the Gilad Shalit exchange. And so, again, whether it's Hezbollah in Lebanon, funded by Iran, whether it's Hamas, now not only in Gaza, funded by Iran, but also a stronghold in Turkey, or whether it's Syria, things are sort of closing in. Something is about to happen. And finally, where do we stand? Here from the United States, we've reported on this many times over the years. Taylor Force, he was a proud U.S. Marine. He was killed by a terrorist on a promenade in Tel Aviv. Because of this, Congress enacted what's called the Taylor Force Act. And the concept was, we are no longer going to provide any money, finances, anything that will go to pay terrorists. It's called pay for slay. The Taylor Force Act was a clear call from Congress in 2018. But since that time, funds have been diverted in different ways. And the Palestinian Authority has estimated that they've given over $1 billion in monthly terror rewards, including, and I'll leave it with this, the family of the terrorists that killed Taylor Force has received over $32,000 to this day. And once again, loopholes are trying to be created to redirect funding to the Palestinians to sidestep the Taylor Force Act. We should not stand for that. So that's the Middle East update for this week. God bless you all. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and pray that God will put it upon the hearts of Americans, of Christians, I should say, to take a stand for Israel. Genesis 12:3 is still in effect today. I will bless those that bless thee, and I will curse those that curse thee. Friends, remember, God keeps his covenant. He made an unconditional covenant to Israel. And may we take that side as well. God bless you, and shalom.